see if this is see if this is going.
Motivates, stimulates, and compels to turn loose of things that are not profitable. And a lot of things black people are dealing with have proven to be not profitable. Of course, they tried to base things on the truth, but the truth is no longer acceptable, you see. Not to the Creator.
Testing.
Because when they took Christ and put him on the cross and he said, I'm the truth, they eliminated the truth. You see, you're dealing with cosmic equations, so when he said, I'm the truth, and they crucified him, they crucified truth, it doesn't exist anymore. So you can't use it. If you do, you'll be just like it. So then what you have now, you have got to deal with the myth. Particularly black race, they got to stop everything and realize whatever they're doing is not profitable. Don't care if it's righteous, don't care if it's truth, it's not doing anything. So then they have to deal with something else. Deal with the myth. And you can take a myth and build a lot of things on it. The white race used the myth of white supremacy. They got a lot to show for it, you know. Of course, a lie. But it makes no difference, you know. You can take a lie, and they got a lot to show for it. All the technology and all these things, that was based on a lie. However, black people got a lot of things that are true. They have nothing to show. Say for instance, I'm from the Creator of the universe. And I tell black people, now show me what you developed. What do you own? What did you create that's yours? They don't have anything, because if they created something, the white race took it. So they don't own anything, you know? They got to face facts and see that the facts are bad. They got to face the truth and reject it. Of course, they're being taught something else. They got to not deal with justice, truth, none of that. It's not going to help. When they're up under the jurisdiction of God, really, and when you get over there, you don't have freedom. Never will have none. Angels don't have any. So if they're looking for to be free, they're going to have to see God himself, and I wouldn't recommend it. The best thing they can do now is to deal with the word discipline for the sake of their children. A lot of black children walking around here with no future. And you can't, like I talk to a lot of people in schools, and they say you can't teach them anything. Why can't you? Because you're not teaching them right. That's why they have to be taught differently from a white child. It's simple. Black children have to be taught with Egyptian standards, ancient Egyptian standards. You got to have hieroglyphics, you got to have a little mystery in it. You got to have statues, and then they can look at the statue, like the white race got this justice blindfold. They can tell their children what it means if they ask. They got a lot of statues everywhere. They still got statues of Mercury, the wing hills, and they got a lot of myth around them, you know. They're not dealing with the truth. The Rome was built up on myths, and Greece was built up on myths, and ancient Egypt was based up on myth, you see. And you go in any European country, they got their myths. But you come to black people in America and say, okay, show me your myths. How many do they have? None. Then they got a vacuum and a void in their life that's different from other nations. They should correct it speedily.
The suppression of myth.
But you know, I'm dealing with the myth that I'm an angel. Because I don't feel like no human being. I know things they don't know. I know all kind of things. I even got the keys to the Bible. I know what it means. Nobody else knows that. And I'm not righteous either. I'm wicked and evil, which gives every wicked and evil person a chance. I saw in the early days that the righteous black people weren't making it, you know. And I watched them as they died. I met some wonderful, good black people. They all hit the dirt. In every case, you see. They hit the dirt. They say the good die young, you know. The evil men do linger on after. So then, black people got to deal with equations. Now, in every dictionary in the world, they say black is evil. So I'm not resisting it. I say so too. I know I can't be black and be good. I know I can't be black and be right, because white is right. So I'm not resisting the white race, anything they say. If they say all the black people should leave Michigan, I say, sure, let's go to Egypt. I'm saying probably would be better for the white race if everybody black left America. and then we'll see. I think they could. I think they'd be better off right now because you see, they got to catch up technical things. Black children don't know too much about words, and their parents don't know too much about it either. They're rid of words, you see. Very important. You got to study those words because the Bible says, "Take words, my people, and return to me." You take these words, and you put them together. You keep on putting them together, and you come up with the real truth concerning you. Then the nations will turn you loose. You have your government. It's waiting for you. Also, some money in the World Bank waiting for you, billions of dollars, if you can prove that you're the ones supposed to have it. If you were Pharaoh's people, you can get this money out the World Bank. They put that for you.
It's almost like seek and you shall find.
Well, yeah, you know, you got everybody got World Bank been in existence a long time, and different rulers put money over in there.
Let's talk a little bit about how you began. People like Duke Ellington and Fletcher Henderson, I understand, have influenced your work greatly, and I'm just wondering in what way.
Well, my whole family was black-minded. So, and when I was a child, they was playing nothing but Bessie Smith, Harris Smith, Mamie Smith, Ethel Waters. They never played no white music for me. All the time, I don't even know what's happening, but that's what I hear. And every week, some different black performers would come to town, they would take me. So I saw Bessie Smith in person, I saw Ma Rainey in person, I saw everybody. And I really didn't know what was happening, but they saw me seeing the greats, you see. Now, they didn't, well, there were bands there too, singers and dancers, but that was on my mind, a lot of impressions to me. Also at the house, they had records by Fletcher Henderson. I didn't know who it was. But this is going on all the time. And then, of course, the records disappeared as I grew older. Well, I didn't know nothing about Fletcher Henderson. And I went to high school, and I heard something about Tatum. Then I got interested in Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, and then I heard Fletcher Henderson. And that was it again. Since it was natural for me to like Fletcher Henderson, since I've been listening at it all the while, probably over in the cradle. So then, in comparing all the different bands, I found the Fletcher Henderson band represented discipline. And everybody in there played like one man. And today, if you get the records of Fletcher Henderson, you will hear them playing like men aren't supposed to play. They're not playing like humans because there are no errors in there, you see. They playing wonderful, they playing jazz. Now, Fletcher Henderson, he was unselfish, and he was instrumental in developing a lot of different artists, like Bessie Smith, Ethel, all of them. He was over in there. He would just go out looking for black talent. He put them in his band. It was said you put somebody in Fletcher Henderson band, and then if they could stay in there, they could play with anybody. You see, because they had a sort of like an aristocracy of jazz. Didn't let everybody play in that band. You couldn't get in there unless you came up to certain standards. You had sight read. See, Fletcher wrote there, he wrote the bass parts, he wrote the drum parts, he wrote the piano parts. Everything was complete, not like today, where somebody writes some chords, the instant music thing.
I've never.
And they don't even have the chords written out, just the name of it, and you play that. And you don't, they have the bass part, you get you over there. Some teenagers run and they get the bass part and they play that. And they don't know no better, you know. I said I was going out and get some teenagers to try to see what I could do to help them. But you know, they're all egotistical, and they're all rebellious, and they don't respect older black people. They don't even respect their fathers.
You have been known to work with electronic instruments long before it became popular back in the 50s. And I'm just wondering, how has this been used in your music?
Well, realizing I can see the future, you see. I saw the space age coming. In fact, I was the first one that said space age. I got a song. Space age is here to stay. It was probably written 25 years ago. Before they sent Sputnik and all that, I was doing it. And I just played in black neighborhoods. I was trying to awaken them to this fact. But I got a lot of ridicule from them.
Curds aren't something you find in recipe books today, at least very often, but in the 18th century, it was a common ingredient. In this episode, we're doing a wonderful curd fritter.
Testing.
Thanks for joining us today on 18th Century Cooking.
Let's see what's going on here. Let's turn
This
it on.
recipe is from Eliza Smith's Complete Housewife from 1758. Very interesting recipe. The first thing we really need here are curds. And what we're going to do today is to make curds for this recipe. You may be able to find curds in the grocery store today. They're definitely becoming a more popular item. If you can't find them in the store, they're very easy to make. In order to make curds, we need rennet. Rennet is an enzyme that's found in the lining of calves' stomachs, and it's there to make it so that the milk that comes in curdles immediately, and it's to make it digestible for the calf. Today we're using animal rennet that we purchased online. And in the 18th century, they would have used something that was essentially the same thing. They would have had a calf's stomach that they would have dried, they would have sliced that into tiny pieces, and they would use a tiny little piece to put into their milk to curdle it. But really, what's happening here is almost exactly the same thing. The recipe calls for a handful of curds. We've got about a half a gallon here. This should yield approximately 8 ounces of curds. I'm guessing that's a handful. I've put the milk down here by the fire. I want to get it to blood warm, just under 100 degrees. So I don't want to put it over the fire. I don't want to risk cooking it, heating it up too much. Just by the fire. Make sure to stir this while you're heating it up slowly. And if you're doing it by the fire like I am, make sure to cover it so you don't get too many ashes in the milk. So it doesn't really matter what kind of milk you use, either 2% or whole milk, but it does matter whether it's ultra pasteurized or not. You can use standard pasteurized, homogenized milk for this, but if it's ultra pasteurized, it's just not going to work. The temperature is perfect. It's taken a little while, but let's get this over and put the rennet in it. The rennet procedure is pretty simple, but we have to do it right. We need approximately a half a teaspoon for this amount of milk of the liquid rennet. I'm stirring this into a quarter of a cup of non-chlorinated water. Now let's add this to our milk, but we can't just dump this in. We need to slowly drizzle it around so that it gets in here very evenly, just a little bit at a time. And now I'm going to give it one very gentle stir.
Very gentle.
And now I'm going to set this aside, the spoon aside. Maybe I'm going to cover this up and let it rest for 15 or 20 minutes for this curd to set up. It's been 20 minutes. It's time to check the curd to see if it's ready to work with. The way to test the curds to see if it's ready is to stick your finger or a knife in, sort of like this, tilt the blade up, and if you see that the curd breaks cleanly, it's ready. Now we need to cut the curd, and we cut the curd so that it can release its whey. We cut it in a crisscross pattern all the way to the bottom, about a 3/4 inch wide strips, one way and then another. And now I'm going to come in and actually cut it at an angle, 45 degrees away from my grid and 45 degrees at an angle in, again,
bias.
to help release that whey.
Looks like he's cutting.
And we'll do this in the opposite direction just one more time. Now we're going to let this set another 20 minutes to a half hour so that it can continue to release the whey completely. Well, after a half an hour, you can definitely see that the whey is separated from the curd. Once the whey is separated, you're going to want to put this back by the fire for a good 20 minutes, trying to bring this up to a temperature of, say, 110 degrees or so. This will help it separate out a little bit better. Line a sieve with cheesecloth. Now we can pour our curds in.
This is always fun.
Once I have this tied up, I can hang it so that it can drain completely. Okay, so we had difficulties with the curd here at the campfire, at the campsite. You really need to keep these up to the right kind of temperature or they're not going to separate, right? So we had to fight our curds. So the curds are ready. Now it's time to make the batter. We have a handful of flour. To that, we're going to add our spices. We've got some nutmeg here, maybe a quarter of a nutmeg, some mace, maybe a half a teaspoon, and a quarter teaspoon of clove. They kind of go together as a threesome in many of these recipes. And now 2 teaspoons of sugar. We probably don't need a lot here because some of that's going to go on the top as they come out after they're done cooking. I'm going to set these dry ingredients aside for just a second and let's bring on our eggs. The recipe calls for 10 eggs. Now, 18th century eggs might have been a little bit smaller, so you might not need so many if you're using regular large eggs from the grocery store, maybe 8. I got 10 eggs here. But I'm gonna whisk these up, put them in the big bowl, and now I'm gonna sift in the dry ingredients to try to get this all mixed in nice, right? Okay, that's looking good. Let's put the curds in. I'm gonna break these up with my fingers and put them in the mix and stir it in with the spoon. If it's a little thin, well, you can bring in a little bit more flour. Again, they didn't have exact measurements here. You know, a handful of flour, a handful of curds. You really just have to make your way through this, get it to the right consistency that you feel is gonna work. It should be a thick batter.
And now for a little sugar on top.
Well, here they are. They look really interesting, and I could tell by the way they went in that they definitely looked interesting in that how they were going to turn out. And you can see from this shot internally, they're very eggy and not like, say, an elephant ear that you might be used to. Let's find out what they taste like. Hey, oh, I love the nutmeg in there. I think the cheese is just in there for texture. And the cheese doesn't bring a lot of, kind of a cheesy flavor with it because it doesn't have a lot of salt in it. But you get some of the wonderful egginess. You get the wonderful spices that were in there. And it definitely needed a good bit of sugar up on top because we didn't have a lot in the batter. You might want to put a little bit more sugar in the batter than we did to sweeten it up just a bit more. That way you don't have to put maybe so much sugar on the outside. A great dish to try out. These fritters are, you've never had anything like them. I can tell you that.
So here's a smartwatch I keep seeing popping up.
Someone who can bring a little history to us. Her name is Mrs. Florence Pannell, and she's 108 years old. Unlike most women of her time, Florence Pannell managed to set up her own beauty care business. She worked for many years in Paris and in London, and she knows a great deal about fashion. Florence, tell me, was it all right for a lady to show her ankle?
In Paris, nothing mattered. But I'm speaking of years before that. Years. When I suppose I was about 10.
Yes.
There was a cartoon in Punch of the old-fashioned bus with the seats going parallel with the bus. And all the men going like this.
Yes. What were they looking for?
There was a woman crossing the road and holding her dress up and showing her ankle to there.
Tut. Florence,
Yes.
tell me a bit about how you managed to start your own beauty business.
No lady worked in those days. It was only a companion or a teacher. She could be a hospital nurse,
Okay.
but not private.
So it was difficult.
Oh, for women, shockingly difficult. I can tell you a story about that. That was also, I think, in Punch. A scraggy woman seated in a chair, little girl playing on the floor, about 4 years old, and an awful-looking man this side in an armchair. Mother, when I grow up, shall I have to be married? Yes, dear. Shall I have to marry a man like father? Yes, dear. And if I don't marry him, shall I be an old maid like Aunt Eliza? Yes, dear. Silence for me. Say, Mother, it's a hard world for us women, isn't it?
Have you ever been in an aeroplane?
Never.
Would you like to?
I shouldn't mind now, but I wouldn't when they first came in. I never fancied them. But I would now because I'm more venturesome.
At my old age.
I think you've been very adventurous right through your life. What's the biggest change of all you've seen?
The biggest change, everything. Nothing is the same. Everything is changed.
Okay, let's see.
Well, as I said, he's a god of the devil talking. Lucifer. Probably Lucifer because he's the leader of the angel choir, so he knows more music than anybody else. And no doubt I know more music than anybody else ever walked the planet.
It's true.
What were the influences on your
He didn't. He didn't.
Well,
He never.
I didn't have
He
any
didn't walk the
influence
planet.
because I didn't know nothing about music. So it came from somewhere else. I was up in strict discipline, you see, as a child. I had to learn about all the musical comedies. I had to learn about hillbilly music. I had to learn all forms of earth music. So it became a time if they gave me a chance to speak, I could speak in any form of music, and they would understand. But I had to know the forms of music on this planet. So that took going to a lot of playing in different places like burlesque clubs and nightclubs, social fairs, house parties, playing in the streets, being in the village in New York, playing avant-garde, playing with blues artists like Lil Green, Ronald Harris,
Ronald Reagan.
Kate Mouth Moore,
Chris Murphy.
Jimmy Witherspoon.
Jimmy
I had to be able to play the shows, to play the dances. I had to sight read. That's when I got with Fletcher Henson band because the show changed every month, and you had to be able to sight read. I had to be able to arrange. I had to be able to write shows, write film singers, film dancers. I had to do everything in music.
How do you write for dancers? This is really fun, but no one's watching me, so it's just me. this. Okay, I'll bite this one.
Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous, il est 18h. Donc comme prévu, nous allons continuer notre formation de gémologie. On attend que certaines personnes se connectent. Quelques petites secondes. Et on va commencer la formation d'aujourd'hui. Bonjour. Alors on attend encore un petit peu. Voilà, ça se connecte un peu, c'est bien. Voilà, quelques secondes. Bon, en attendant que tout le monde se connecte, on va commencer aujourd'hui donc un cours, une formation sur le saphir. On va vous apprendre pas mal de choses aujourd'hui sur donc la famille des corindons, mais plus particulièrement le saphir. Je vous fais un petit récapitulatif de ce qu'on a vu hier. Donc hier, on avait vu les systèmes cristallins et le matériel d'identification des pierres précieuses. Voilà. Donc aujourd'hui, on va donc voir le saphir. Le saphir, on va voir plusieurs choses dessus. On va voir où est-ce qu'on le trouve. On va voir comment il se forme. On va voir les différentes couleurs du saphir. On va voir les différentes appellations, les saphirs historiques, les plus gros saphirs. On va voir vraiment tout l'étendue des différences des saphirs. Donc on va voir ça ensemble. Et voilà, donc je vais laisser Patrick commencer ce cours donc, sur le saphir.
Merci. Donc bonjour. Ben, le saphir, bon, il faut savoir que c'est une des pierres les plus connues depuis toujours et peut-être la plus prisée, la plus vendue dans nos régions en tout cas, en Occident. Quand on parle de saphir, on parle surtout de saphir bleu. On verra qu'il y a d'autres couleurs, mais on parle, quand on dit saphir, en général c'est bleu. Pour les autres saphirs, on mettra l'adjectif de couleur derrière. Alors, tout d'abord, un petit rappel historique sur ces saphirs. En hébreu, on disait saphir, et ça caractérisait la plupart des pierres bleues. Et on considérait que c'était les choses les plus belles. On s'est rendu compte aussi, pendant très longtemps, en Perse notamment, on pensait que le monde reposait sur un saphir qui reflétait sa lumière sur le ciel et les alentours, ce qui était assez joli, voilà, mais ce qui n'était effectivement pas vrai. Bon. Il a toujours représenté les mystères de l'au-delà, et en Égypte et à Rome, il représentait la justice et la vérité. C'est-à-dire qu'on attribuait toujours aux pierres certaines particularités et certains pouvoirs. Ensuite, au niveau de la religion catholique, au XIIe siècle, un pape a mis, qui s'appelait Innocent III, il a mis dans une bulle que les évêques et les cardinaux devaient porter à la main droite un saphir qui représentait la couleur céleste et bien évidemment Dieu. Donc, tout cela veut dire que le saphir, depuis très longtemps, il est connu.
Parfait. Attends quelques secondes. On va commencer. Alors. Bon.
Shit. Merde.
Qui s'appelait Innocent III. Il a mis dans une bulle que les évêques et les cardinaux devaient porter à la main droite un saphir qui représentait la couleur céleste et bien évidemment Dieu. Donc, tout cela veut dire que le saphir, depuis très longtemps, il est connu et on a trouvé un certain nombre de pierres exceptionnelles, notamment une à la fin du 19e, qui est le plus gros saphir connu aujourd'hui, dont je vous montre la photo là. Vous voyez, ça c'est ma main. Donc il est quand même assez gros. Et je regarde exactement son poids. Il fait toujours d'ailleurs 486,52 carats. Voilà, c'est un saphir qui vient de Ceylan, qui est une pierre exceptionnelle, qui n'est pas traitée bien évidemment. Le deuxième en poids, il pèse 478,65 carats. Il s'appelle le Queen of Romania. Le troisième, c'est le Logan, le saphir Logan, qui pèse 423 carats. Ce sont des pierres exceptionnelles. Il a été offert par Logan au Smithsonian Institute aux États-Unis, à Washington, en 1960. Et la quatrième, et on s'arrêtera là, c'est la Belle of Asia. Pour vous donner une petite idée, la Belle of Asia fait 392,52 carats et a été vendue en 2014 17,29 millions de dollars. Voilà, ce qui est quand même considérable. Bon, voilà. Donc, après ce petit démarrage, on va parler des caractéristiques physiques et chimiques de cette merveilleuse pierre.
Tout à fait. Alors donc pour les caractéristiques physiques et chimiques, alors déjà je vous rappelle juste une petite parenthèse, sachez qu'on a trouvé enfin la solution pour mettre tous les replays sur internet. Il suffit d'aller sur la chaîne YouTube de Patrick Voileau et vous retrouverez tous les replays de nos formations que je mettrai donc en direct, enfin tout de suite après le direct sur YouTube. Donc n'hésitez pas à aller voir sur YouTube, sur la chaîne de Patrick Voileau pour retrouver tous les replays en direct, voilà, que je mettrai tout de suite après. Donc, pour les caractéristiques physiques et chimiques du saphir, il faut savoir que donc, le saphir, on l'a vu hier dans les systèmes cristallins, déjà, pour commencer, c'est du système rhomboédrique. Donc, on va montrer quelques brutes. Pour montrer
déjà, voilà, qu'on vous a montré hier, mais voilà, le rhomboèdre, la forme parfaite du rhomboèdre, c'est cela.
Je tends un peu le bras, pour que tout le monde puisse voir, voilà, c'est la forme parfaite du rhomboèdre. Donc, le système cristallin du saphir.
Alors, on peut se dire, quand on voit un saphir, par exemple, là ce sont des cristaux de saphir comme on les trouve dans la nature, on peut se dire que ça ne ressemble pas du tout à un rhomboèdre. Mais malgré tout, si vous voulez, tous les angles qu'on va retrouver dans le rhomboèdre et dans ce cristal seront identiques, ce qui veut dire que la plus petite maille, c'est-à-dire si on broie ce saphir au plus petit, et on obtiendra un petit rhomboèdre. Voilà. Alors le saphir, il est formé de quoi? Il est formé d'aluminium et d'oxygène. C'est un oxyde d'aluminium. Ce sont deux atomes que l'on trouve beaucoup, enfin en quantité dans l'univers, enfin sur Terre. Et donc ils vont se composer ensemble.
Several centuries before our era, travelers told of a valley deep and inaccessible, guarded by snakes and birds of prey, which contained fabulous diamonds. A powerful lord of that time sent his servant in search of the precious stones. To escape the dangers, they threw pieces of meat into the valley. Raptors rushed to retrieve the food in which diamonds were encrusted. The men needed only to plunder the nests and bring their bounty to their sovereign. Thus spread over the ages the legend of the Valley of Diamonds. Today, no one really knows where it's located. Maybe in the eastern region of Guinea, Benankoro, whose wealth in diamonds and hostility of nature recalls the tale.
This is an exceptional and deflawless heart-shaped.
Here is an exceptional piece. A diamond necklace, perfectly pure, heart and pear-shaped. It's more than 128 carats and it's mounted on platinum.
And it's very flexible.
It's beautiful. It's very flexible, easy to wear.
She's translating English right now?
The African continent is a major producer of diamonds. On its western coast, Conakry, Guinea, produces exceptional gems. In 1955, Sékou Touré became mayor of Conakry, then president of this country that now houses 7 million inhabitants. He remained in power for 27 years. Guineans have forgotten his image as a tyrant because he was able to impose the name of the country worldwide. There are 3 dominant ethnic groups: the Fulani, the Malinke, and the Susus. They are very involved in diamond mining, located mainly in their stronghold in Upper Guinea, on the boundary of the Guinea forest. The diamond reserve is estimated at 25 million carats. Large quantities of gold, iron, aluminum, and uranium are also part of the natural resources of this country. The production of diamonds in Guinea is mainly artisanal, despite some industrial companies that have, in 2001, produced 25,000 carats. Artisans have unearthed 338,000, or 14 times more. Fatou is a woman master, mastar on her concession, which means she is the owner. It is she who will have first choice of the diamonds that the workers find here. The griots, sorts of troubadours, sing the boss's praises in exchange for some bills. To reach the diamond-rich land covered by alluvia, miners dig dozens of meters deep. One of the largest diamond reserves in the world for jewelry is in this extremely closed-off region, near a town called Banankoro. In 1932, the first diamond was officially discovered by an Irish prospector, Dermody, in the headwaters of the Makona River in the forest region of Guinea. What do we find here? We find diamonds. The XX diamond. Blue eyes. Is it good quality here? Good quality, good quality. You often find it in your parcel? Yes, often, often. We chose the right god.
Ici, c'est le coin que le master qui m'aide, c'est eux qui me supportent ici.
Qu'est-ce que c'est qu'un master?
What is a master? A master is someone who buys diamonds that come out of there.
Lui qui achète maintenant le diamant qui sort ici.
D'accord. Et lui,
Okay.
le master achète.
The master, he buys the diamonds. Yes, I buy the diamonds. I buy them from the workers.
Nous, on vend maintenant à le collecteur.
Yes, and after you sell them to whom? We sell them to a collector. That's it.
Lui aussi, il va.
Then the collector, what does he do with the diamond afterwards? He goes to the trading post. The search is artisanal. All is done with the arms, a shovel, a sieve, and their feet in water all day. This zone is under heavy military surveillance. It is very close to Liberia and Sierra Leone, 2 countries of great political unrest. Guerrilla troops do not hesitate to cross the borders into Guinea. In the 1950s, underground operators from Sierra Leone invaded the area. Many stayed. Others followed later, fleeing civil war in their country. Fatou is happy to find a stone in the very first cleaning of the day. People are very superstitious here. This discovery, even if the diamond is not very big, is going to bring her luck on her concession. It's like a lottery. You can find lots of stones and become very rich, or lose all your money in an unnecessary work in a sterile mine. The criteria for quality of a diamond, like purity and color, are precisely determined. The weight is also. The unit of measurement is 0.2 grams per carat. The name comes from the carob seed, once used in the East, whose weight was always constant. The Banankoro area is populated by Kurankos, an ethnic subgroup of the Malenka. They are Islamic fundamentalists. The city has hundreds of mosques. Hotels, considered places of debauchery, do not exist. and public schools are located outside the city. There is no running water, no electricity,